Serious people who've had sex with their so/ex/friend's parent. How the hell did you get to that point? What happened after? My sister was talking this one kid I didn't really care for, and ended up working with him at the job I was managing at. There was a woman working in a different area at that same job. I ended up having a one-night stand with her after we had been flirting a bit here and there. Come to find out later that was the dude's mom. My sister would then use this as a comeback and say, well, your mom sucked off my bro. Was a weird time several years ago. All kind of moved away after a bit. Nothing much outside of that happened. Your sister might be an asshole, lol. What did that dude do to have that thrown at him? My mom's ugly, so jokes on your brother. Well, I was a horny guy. And my friend's mom was, well, available. Really. I'm not proud of it. It just kind of happens sometimes. And every time I felt shame. I don't know. Like I was betraying my friend's trust? Worst thing was, she was actually a friend of my mom too. So I kinda saw her on a regular basis. Oh, so it was on the regular for you. Not really an ex, but an ex-co-worker I worked with in college. We worked late shift together and had sex multiple times in my dorm. Didn't know her mother worked day shift and had a married last name that she kept. So I later like 5 years later went on to work day shift not knowing that was her mother, and they were aged 18 and 34, so I never thought it could have been. She also made sure not to tell me it was her mom because she said that conversation would be awkward. So yeah, I end up sleeping with her mom as well as her. Neither of them to my knowledge know that I slept with the other, and I wasn't willing to tell them. Haven't seen either of them in years BTW. I graduated and moved. And for those wondering, the mom was better. Not the same. But my friend's dad was released from prison and then was sending me DMs. He was in his late 30s. And he'd try to get me to meet up with him. I was 15. My friend never told me why his dad was in prison. But a few years ago I googled it, and it turns out he was locked up for sexual contact with a minor. I was lucky I didn't meet up with him. I went to a party with a friend who introduced me to a young lady a couple years older than me. We kinda hit it off with conversation. She explained to me how her and my friend knew each other and how frequently he'd hang out at her house. Explained how he and her mom basically lived alone because her dad was bedridden on a machine in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Long story short, she came home early one day to find that my friend was there having relations with her mom. That pretty much ended our newly budding romance, and my friend is now heavy into the church. What a terrible wingman your friend is. Interesting that the top 20 or so comments are younger male with older female and one older male. Is that really that much more common? Or is it more that young men like to brag about it while a woman feels shame for hooking up with a dad? I think the friend's mom thing might be more often fantasized about. But if you actually read most of them, they're not even mostly positive. Left home when I was 14. Called home when I was 17 to check in. Some dude answered the phone I recognized. Immediately went into threat mode. Dude I had beef with in high school a year ahead of me was living in my house. This kid's mom at his graduation party I went to high school with. His parents were rich and it was well known his mom was decent looking and dressed like she was in high school. But this kid always only had his close friends at his house. Until his graduation party. My close friend had a twin sister and we always partied together, and she wound up with an older kid who had already graduated, but he was cool and always hung out with us. So he comes to the grad party with us. Long story short, the older kid was found pants down with the drunk mom bent over the bathroom sink. The kid whose party it was and the dad went nuts and chaos ensued. The older kid hit the grad party kid and took off. I heard that the mom wound up sleeping with another kid we went to school with a couple years later and they got divorced. I'll never forget that chaos though. That was a fun party. Obvious throwaway, and I'm sure this will get buried, but anyways. Met this guy at the beginning of college. Dated all through college. Anyways, my boyfriend at the time, the son, became super controlling, manipulative and borderline abusive. Which all came to a head when his parents' years-long divorce was finalized. Dumped the boyfriend. He moved out of state and the dad still lived close by. Stayed in contact with the dad and many other people from his family. Eventually the dad asked how my dating life was and I took it as an opportunity to complain about how I was having a hard time finding people who I had sexual chemistry with. Turned into a conversation about kinks and eventually over a few months the tension just kept building. To be blunt, we were both horny, lonely and knew the other person was into the same thing, so we started a FWB type relationship. Helped that the dad was young and aged wonderfully. Eventually it ended on good terms. We both met other people. We both pushed the other to date other people. Find something long-term and more fulfilling than cheap sex. From what I know, no one knows. I never told and he didn't either. We were just lonely. Needed some sex and wasn't about to have casual sex with randoms. Might as well be someone you know that will be happy for you once you find the right relationship. Yeah, it was slutty of me and maybe I'll regret it in the future, but at the time it was amazing sex with a good-looking person I trusted. And FYI, the dad never hit on me while I dated the son. To my knowledge anyways. I slept with my mate's mom. We were mates all through primary school and high school. Played footy together, etc. During high school they moved fairly close to us after his parents got divorced. Over the next couple of years we caught the bus to and from school together, and his mom would wait with us in the mornings and we would sit at a cafe nearby to have a coffee. Even on days when he was sick and wasn't going to school, she would still meet me for coffee. He would regularly have parties at his place on weekends. Mainly because of the divorced parents, and his mom kind of let him have free reign as a result. On those nights I would hang out with her, have a drink together, chat, as she was more interesting to me than the girls my age. After high school was over my mate and I stopped hanging out, but every now and then I'd see his mom at the local shops, etc., cause we still lived near each other. One day when we bumped into each other we decided to have a coffee like old times. After we agreed to do it again. Started meeting for a coffee every now and then. After a time the coffee was being had at her house rather than at the cafe. You left out the part where you slept with your mate's mom. I'm assuming the coffee is a euphemism for banged like a dunny door. Pretty bold of them to be banging in the cafe. If you don't like it, go to a different Starbucks. I slept with a childhood friend's dad while visiting my hometown. Long story short, he's bi and divorced and I was browsing on a gay hookup app. It's a small countryside town, so the only things to do are key to mine. Sex or leave. He messages me and he clearly doesn't recognize me because I don't look the same as I did a decade ago. I recognize him and the entire time I'm thinking this is really weird, but I'm bored and he's relatively handsome and charming, as far as charming goes on Grindr, LOL, so I figure hey, why not? And hindsight is 20/20 because the sex was fun, but the entire time I'm thinking this is my friend's dad. He has literally driven me to school before. Just left an overall odd feeling. My friend doesn't know and it's going to stay that way because we don't really talk whatsoever now, and it'd be weird to just pop up like your dad jackhammered my prostate, and it was kinda weird. Jackhammered. Till there are a lot of predatory moms, are there? There's 8 billion people. My coworker that I slept with set me up with her mom. This is kind of an awkward one. I helped a coworker move. After all that was said and done, we had a drink and got to talking. She ended up blowing me and we hooked up to FBeep a couple times after. We ended up just stopping and had almost no contact for about a year or so after. I made a satirical post on Facebook about the dating pool being, quote, a pond of acid full of robot piranha with lava for piss, and she messages me saying her mom was looking for a guy. I figure, okay, FBeep it? Why not? I like cougars. I start talking to her mom. We sorta hit it off. And she asks me to come over. I had no idea my former coworker lived with her. So awkward. After a couple hours of hanging out, her mom invites me into the bedroom. Still awkward. Next thing I know, I'm FBeeping her mom while she's out in the other room watching TV. It never stopped being awkward. There was even one time when the coworker knocked on the door and said something to the extent of "I want to turn with him when you're done." Which her mom said something like, "FBeep, you find your own cock to suck?" Did I mention this was really FBeeping awkward? That was sort of the defining moment where I knew I needed to just nope on out of there. Undefined. No way these people actually exist in real. I bet they do. When I was in the army, a guy in the adjacent unit used to bang both a mother and daughter separately. He ended up knocking them both up. It became a thing because they both wanted to keep the babies and he was trying to deny they were his. Wish I knew how that ended up. Tyler, stop fighting with your brother. You have to respect your uncle. Brunkle. I'd a head out. That's where a dingleberry sniffer draws the line. Huh. I wouldn't have guessed.
Hey guys, if you like this video then smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more contents like this. And don't forget to press that bell icon to get notified for future videos. Thanks for watching. Click here to see more videos.